I never imagined I'd lose my mom this morning, but then a millionaire offered us hope. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My heart felt like it was crumbling inside my chest, each beat a reminder of the unbearable loss. I had just finished my morning coffee when the phone rang. The shrill sound pierced through my morning haze. I could sense something was wrong, a gut feeling that twisted in my stomach. My hands trembled as I answered, and all I heard was the voice of a stranger, cold and distant, cutting through my world. "I'm so sorry about your mother. My mom. My rock. The one with laughter that filled our tiny apartment with warmth. How could this be happening?" I still remember her hugs, the way she'd smoothed down my hair when I was upset, whispering that everything would be okay. But the moment I hung up the phone, a suffocating silence surrounded me. I could barely breathe. The shadows felt heavier, darker, and I realized that I was truly alone now. The last few months had been a blur. I knew she was sick, but I never expected it to end like this. We fought together. I watched her decline, her vibrant energy fading like a dimming light. She would smile, assuring me it was just another bump in the road. But I could see the pain in her eyes. The hospital visits and stacks of bills looming over us like a storm cloud. I wanted to be strong for her. After all, I was her daughter, but now, it felt like the life was sucked out of me. I glanced around our living room, filled with photographs of better days. My fingers brushed against the frame of our last family vacation, the sun shining bright, laughter echoing in my memory. My little brother, Ethan, had grinned ear to ear, oblivious to the struggles our family faced. I wanted to scream, to shake the universe and demand my life back. Then, amidst my haze of grief and despair, something curious happened. Just as I was about to crumble into the abyss, I received an unexpected call. It was a number I did not recognize. Hesitant, I answered, and the deep, resonant voice on the other end sent shivers down my spine. "Hello. This is Victor Langston. I believe we need to talk." A millionaire? Why was he calling me? My pulse raced as I listened. He spoke of opportunities, of solutions to problems I didn't even know existed. It sounded almost too good to be true, but desperation made me curious. Why would a stranger want to help us? Did he know about my mom? Was this some kind of sick joke? My palms were slick with sweat. I felt a flicker of hope mixed with fear. How could this man offer us a way out when I had just lost everything? The air around me thickened, a tension hung in the silence as I realized I was standing on the edge of a cliff, a choice that could change everything. Before I could respond, he added, "Meet me at the old pier this evening. We have much to discuss." And just like that, the line went dead. My heart raced wildly. Should I go? What did he want from me? It felt like I was being pulled into a mystery that I was unprepared to unravel. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows through the thin trees lining the old pier, I stood frozen, wrestling with the tumult of emotions churning within me. The gentle lapping of the waves was a stark contrast to the storm within my heart, a place torn between despair and the faint whisper of hope that Victor Langston had ignited that I hadn't wanted to come. The memories of Mom's laughter echoed in my ears, her warmth a bittersweet reminder of everything I had lost. But desperation had pushed me to take the first step. I needed to know what he was offering. The weight of our mounting bills and the emptiness in the house were too heavy to bear alone. But why would a millionaire want to help us? My legs felt leaden as I took cautious steps closer to the dimly lit figure at the far edge of the pier. Victor stood with his back to me, his silhouette regal against the soft blush of twilight, a stark contrast to my own disheveled appearance. A shiver ran down my spine as I reminded myself that I had to stay alert. No one offered help without expecting something in return. "Thank you for coming," he said, turning slightly to face me. His voice was surprisingly warm, yet there was an edge to it that hinted at complexity. "I know this is a difficult time for you. Please, don't feel uneasy." I hesitated, fighting the urge to bolt. "What do you want from me?" "Simply the chance to help. I've followed your family's story." His gaze pierced through the dusk, looking deeper than I felt comfortable with. "Your mother's struggle moved me. I believe we can find common ground." The mention of my mother sent a fresh wave of grief crashing over me. How dare he speak about her like she was some cause to champion? She was my everything. What kind of help can you possibly offer? "It's too late for her," I blurted, unable to contain myself. Victor's expression softened, and he took a step closer, a glimmer of sincerity flitting across his features. "I know. And I'm deeply sorry for your loss. But I believe that in her memory, there's a chance to make a difference. I want to invest in a cause that matters to you, to bring light to a situation that has brought you darkness." "What do you mean?" I asked, mystified by his words and intentions. My heart was heavy with loss, yet here he stood presenting some new path, like a lighthouse in a storm. "There's a community center downtown that's facing closure due to lack of funds. Your mother was involved, wasn't she? She was a bright light in that neighborhood." I couldn't speak. My mind spun. The center was where Mom had volunteered, where kids found refuge and joy. She had poured her heart into it, her laughter had braided itself into every act of kindness. To think it was in danger felt like a betrayal of everything she had stood for. "I want to help you save it," Victor continued, sensing my turmoil. "In return, I'd like to discuss a partnership to establish a scholarship fund in your mother's name." A spark ignited in me, a small flicker of hope that combined both excitement and fear. Could this be the lifeline I desperately needed? But then I remembered the whispers I had heard over the last months, stories about him, rumors of greed disguised as compassion. "Why would you do this? What do you hope to gain?" I pressed, suspicion creeping back into the forefront of my thoughts. His smile faltered for just a breath, and in that moment, I thought I saw the frailty of a man hidden beneath layers of wealth and authority. "I lost someone too," he murmured, his gaze falling momentarily before he gained composure. "Sometimes, helping others is the only way to heal." That I drank in his words, contemplating the weight of my own pain against his. But before I could respond, the sound of heavy footsteps interrupted our conversation. An ominous figure encroached from the shadows, someone I didn't recognize, but the look in their eyes held a fire that made my skin prickle. The air thickened with tension as I sensed a shift in the atmosphere. Victor's expression darkened as he turned towards the newcomer. "What are you doing here?" "Business is business." The voice was low and dripping with menace, each word soaked in a sinister tone. "And you're walking a dangerous line, Langston." My heart raced. What had I stumbled into? The evening had morphed from a simple encounter into something far more complicated. And as the confrontation escalated, I realized that not only was my heart in danger, but also my very sense of stability and safety. The pier, once a symbol of hope, loomed vast and foreboding around me. In an instant, I felt the ferocity of my situation, trapped between the mystery of Victor's intentions and an unforeseen threat that hung in the air like a storm about to break. As the shadows closed in, uncertainty clawed at me, a dark harbinger of a truth I was yet to discover. My breath hitched, and I could do little but watch as the world I had begun to trust unraveled before my very eyes. The storm within me roared louder than the ominous voices that danced on the edge of the pier, threatening to drown out Victor's earnest intentions. I stood frozen, caught in a web that felt tighter with each passing moment. The flickering lamplight illuminated the newcomer, revealing a face that seemed carved from rock, hardened and relentless. "Is this the girl you're risking everything for?" The stranger sneered, glancing at me with disdain, as though I were nothing more than a plaything in this twisted game. You really think helping her is going to offset your sins, Langston? Victor's posture shifted, steely resolve replacing any hint of warmth. This isn't about me, and you know it. I won't sit idly by while you attempt to intimidate me. What's to stop me from taking everything you've worked for? The stranger thrust back, a sneer making his words hang thick with malice. A pulse of urgency coursed through me. My life had never been this intense, never been this fraught with danger, yet here I stood, weighing the very fate of my past against an uncertain future. Enough! I shouted, the sound surprising even me. I don't know what this is about, but am not a pawn in your game. A twinge of fear rattled within my chest as I took a step closer to Victor, subconsciously seeking safety in his presence. For a brief moment, the man's eyes flickered with anger mixed with something else, a hint of surprise. But then he smirked, the kind of smile that reshaped the shadows around him, revealing something sinister. You think you can take a stand here? You have no idea what you're dealing with, kid. You've got no leverage. You're just a girl who lost her mother. His words pierced through me, raw and truthful. My heart cracked under the weight of his reminder, and I faltered. Yes, I've lost something irreplaceable, I admitted, a tremor threading through my voice. But that doesn't mean I'm powerless. Victor moved forward, a protective stance that carved a fragile line of defense. Leave her out of this, he growled, his eyes narrowing. Only if you leave the community center alone, the ominous man shot back, his tone razor-sharp. You can't buy your way into redemption, Langston. Not without a price. Then, as if seeking retribution for the moment we were in, the waters surged beneath us, sending splashes of brine into the air. The tension was palpable, like electricity crackling in the atmosphere. My breath felt trapped in my throat, a stark reminder of how quickly everything I had built in these fleeting seconds could collapse before me. Victor turned back to me, his face rigid but his eyes soft. Hold on to that fire inside you. You're more resilient than you realize. Before I could respond, the stranger snorted cruelly. Resilience doesn't pay the bills, sweetheart. Think about it. What happens if Langston lets you down? Believe me, I know what it means to be let down, I shot back, the walls around my heart pulsing with a sudden surge of clarity. But I do know that hope, no matter how fragile, can still be worth fighting for. The tides around us ebbed and flowed, mirroring the tumult inside me. As I stood firm, Victor's gaze filled with something deeper, respect, maybe. With every heartbeat, I felt the uncertainty swirl like the waves at my feet, yet there was something profound happening within the chaos. Leave her out of this, Rex, Victor said again, his voice steadier now, somehow laced with gravity. She deserves better than to be dragged into our mess. The man Rex, it seemed, took a step back, narrowing his eyes, but I sensed the flicker of hesitation beneath his brash exterior. You're making a mistake, Langston. This isn't just business, and you better remember that. With that, he turned on his heel and retreated into the gathering darkness, leaving tension hanging like thick fog in the night air. I felt the weight of his departure, a shadow that lingered long after he was out of sight. Are you okay? Victor asked softly, concern edging his words. I nodded slowly, though inside I felt like a coiled spring, ready to snap at any moment. I think so, I stammered. Though the uncertainty gnawed at my insides. What was all that about? Rex is complicated, Victor replied, running a hand through his hair, the stress visible on his face. He has a history with me, and let's say it isn't friendly. But he's right about one thing, we are contending with forces that don't see compassion as a strength. I shivered again, the weight of our situation sinking deeper into my bones. And I'm just supposed to trust you. I wouldn't ask you to. But I want you to know that I truly believe we can fight for something worth saving. The community center is important, and I see your mother's spirit residing in it, waiting to shine again. The desperation lingered in the space between us, dense and palpable. What if you can't protect it? What if Rex is too dangerous? His hand found mine, a grounding force that brought warmth. Then we fight together. But I need you to trust me at least a little. This is more than just a business deal for me, it's personal. I felt the thrum of possibility and fear, a battle raging within me. Could I dare to lean on someone after everything? Just as I began to find my bearings, the sky erupted in a brilliant flash of thunder, a jagged fork of lightning slicing through the clouds. The heavens opened, pouring down rain as if the universe were mirroring my internal chaos. "We need to get out of here," Victor said, pulling me toward the safety of the enclosed pier, but I froze for a moment, glancing back into the dark waters beneath us. What if Rex returns? Then we'll face him together. His words hung in the air, a lifeline thrown into turbulent seas. As we stepped away from the edge, my heart was a tumult of hope and dread, uncertain if I could truly step into the light again. And then, as we navigated the drenched wooden slats of the pier, I heard the distant sound of sirens drawing closer, mingling with the rain. With a sudden surge of foreboding, I looked up at Victor. "What's happening?" His face paled, and seconds later, the overwhelming dread settled in. Something dark was closing in on us, and I wasn't sure if the danger lay in Rex, the rain-soaked pier, or within ourselves. In the soft glow of emergency lights flickering in the distance, I couldn't shake the feeling that the answers we sought had only begun, unveiling a far more complex tapestry, stretching beyond what I had prepared myself to face. The rain poured relentlessly as we scrambled to find cover, the patter of water against the pier echoing my frenetic heartbeat. I could barely breathe, the sirens now looming ominously. The lights were swirling shadows against the dark, illuminating the surrounding chaos. "Victor, what's going on?" I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. My heart raced as we stumbled under the awning of the pier, seeking refuge from both the elements and whatever was about to unfold. That he looked at me, his brow furrowed, lips pressed tightly together. "I don't know yet. But we need to stay close. If Rex is working with someone, a partner," I whispered, the pieces of this dangerous puzzle beginning to align, sending a wave of dread through me. Victor nodded, his gaze locked on the flickering lights of the approaching cars. "Exactly. We can't take any chances. I won't let them hurt you." As the emergency vehicles rolled onto the scene, I couldn't shake the gnawing feeling of helplessness. I pressed my back against the cold, damp wood, feeling the chill seep into my bones. The wooden pier creaked under the weight of what might come next. The sirens faded momentarily, replaced by the distant, anxious chatter of voices now filling the pier. I clung to Victor's arm, seeking the warmth of reassurance, even as uncertainty loomed over us like a storm cloud. Suddenly, a familiar voice broke through the chaos. "Victor. Are you here?" Victor's posture tensed as we turned to see Melanie, a community center volunteer, rushing toward us, her expression frantic. "What's happening?" she cried out, breathless. "There's been an accident. Someone was hurt at the center. They called the ambulance, said there was a confrontation." My stomach dropped. The community center, the heart of my mother's legacy, now threatened by unseen horrors. "What do you mean?" "Was it Rex?" "I don't know," Melanie replied, wringing her hands. "But they said there were people involved who were dangerous." "I thought you should know." Victor turned to me, urgency filling his eyes. "We have to go. Don't let fear dictate our choices. We need to see if we can help." That I wanted to protest, to cry out that we were out of our depth, but instead I nodded, driven by the relentless pull of purpose. As we emerged from our makeshift shelter, the rain continued to lash against us, each drop a reminder of the chaos surrounding our lives. Navigating the now muddied path leading to the community center felt surreal, as if each step carried the weight of countless untold stories embedded in the ground. The atmosphere hung heavy with tension, as passerby faces twisted in concern flickered like shadows through the haze. People were gathered, their murmurs cutting through the air like jagged pieces of glass. Some were shivering under thin jackets, gazing towards the commotion near the entrance. Ambassadors of hope and fear swirled together, and I could feel my unease intensify with every heartbeat. As Victor and I pushed through the crowd, I caught a glimpse of the front entrance, where police officers and paramedics swarmed, illuminated by the harsh lights of the vehicles parked haphazardly, glaring like stars eclipsed by an impending storm. "Stay behind me," Victor instructed softly before stepping forward, an anchor against the rising tide of uncertainty. My pulse quickened as he approached the officers, speaking urgently. All around us, conversations buzzed with worry and fear, a tapestry of anguish woven into the rain-soaked night that I stood frozen, fear flooding my senses as I scanned the crowd, searching for answers, for clarity. My mother's memory pulsed through me, a vivid echo, reminding me of the warmth of her spirit, the laughter we shared echoing in the halls of the community center. It felt as if her essence reached out, urging me to step forward, to confront whatever awaited us, but then a sound sliced through my thoughts, a piercing cry reaching out from the entrance, filled with anguish. I turned just in time to see a gurney being rolled out from the center, a figure lying motionless, shrouded in a glossy blanket. Air caught in my throat as the reality crashed over me like the relentless waves. "Victor!" I hoarsely exclaimed, gripping his arm tighter. He froze, eyes locked on the gurney as the world dimmed around us. The paramedics worked urgently, faces tense, but I felt the ground shift beneath me, and I stumbled backward, breathless. That wasn't just any figure. "Is that," I whispered, the realization crashing over me like ice water. "Is that my mother?" Before Victor could respond, the crowd began to stir, confusion rippling through like a wave. When he turned back to me, his expression filled with horror, my heart reached a new level of desperation. "That we can't stay here," I shouted over the noise, fighting against the tide of unending dread. But Victor remained rooted, the weight of the moment pinning us both down. "No, it can't be. Not like this," he murmured, anguish flickering across his features. "I won't let it be." Fear surged through me, entwined with confusion. But just then, the paramedics moved aside, revealing the face of the figure beneath the sheets, and I struggled to suppress a sob. It was not my mother, but the stark resemblance to her, the face of a woman who had once been my mother's closest friend, someone who had helped build the center's foundations alongside her. "Jenna," I whispered. A mix of relief and grief washed over me, for I had narrowly skirted a tragedy but felt the heavy weight of loss still clawing at my heart. The ground beneath me felt unsteady, and I watched as Victor's face hardened, determination ignited, but then, in the midst of my shifting emotions, I caught a flash of movement in the corner of my eye. A familiar figure emerged from the fringes of the crowd, cloaked in shadows and drenched from the rain. It was Rex, exiting the darkness as if he were a phantom returning to haunt us. In that moment, I knew everything had just changed. The battle we had unknowingly waged was barely beginning, and my heart sank in anticipation of what lay ahead. The storm within was revealing more than I had ever prepared for, and I could feel the weight of our choices lingering just out of reach, like the distant echo of a bell tolling ominously in the night. The rain began to taper off, but the heaviness in the air lingered like an unresolved tension. As Rex's shadow loomed closer, I felt my heart race anew, fueled by both dread and an irrational glimmer of hope that this was not the last I would see of darkness swallow me whole. Victor's posture stiffened beside me, radiating an unyielding barrier of protectiveness. "Stay here," he ordered, turning towards Rex with a fierce glare. The crowd seemed to part, allowing Rex to advance, his expression a mask of feigned concern. "Come on, man, I just wanted to see if everyone was okay," Rex stated, his voice dripping with insincerity. The audacity of it struck me. His presence here felt like a disturbance in a fragile pond, disturbing serenity with endless ripples of uncertainty that I wanted to scream at him, to demand answers about the chaos that had just unfolded. Instead, I stood frozen, watching the two men circle each other, unspoken words hanging thickly between them. "Right. The guy who just happens to show up when tragedy strikes," Victor shot back, his every word laced with contempt. A shiver danced down my spine, not just from the cold but from the realization that Rex's intentions were anything but clear. With feigned nonchalance, Rex shrugged, his gaze flitting across the scene, evaluating. "This could all just be a coincidence, Victor. Or perhaps it's an opportunity." "An opportunity? For whom?" "The community." Victor's laughter was harsh and bitter. "You think this is a game?" Rex smirked, though it did not reach his eyes. "You know I can help. We both know you can't save everyone. But what if I could offer something more than that?" Confusion washed over me anew. 24 hours ago, Rex had been a thorn in our side, nothing more than an antagonist hellbent on making life harder for my mother's center. But now, he stood before us, the promise of aid laced within his words, igniting an inner conflict deep within me that I took a half step forward, my voice barely above a whisper. "What do you want?" "Just to offer a helping hand. I have resources, people who can support the center, bring it back to life," he said, as if weaving a spell to draw me in. "And in doing so, we can keep the danger away." The unsettling notion of accepting help from Rex twisted my insides. At what cost? This is a ploy to gain control again, isn't it? I couldn't shake the feeling that he was playing puppet master, threading strings to manipulate. Victor stepped forward, blocking my view of Rex with an unwavering fierceness. "We don't need anything from you. You've already done enough damage." Rex scoffed, rolling his eyes. "I'm trying to turn chaos into opportunity. The city doesn't care about the community center. But I could make them care if you'd let me." The air crackled between us as anxiety and desperation spiraled in discord. I looked up at Victor, who met my gaze with an intensity that spoke volumes. The choice laid bare before us felt insurmountable: accept Rex's insincere offer or risk losing everything my mother had worked so hard for. But my thoughts were interrupted when the figure of a paramedic rushed toward us, wet hair plastered to her forehead. "I need to speak with someone. There's a situation inside the center that requires immediate attention." Concern knitted my brow. "What is it?" "There are witnesses claiming they saw someone leaving the scene. They said there might still be danger connected to the incident. We need to ensure everyone is safe." Her voice was urgent and stern, a sharp reminder that danger lurked beyond. That I felt panic bubble within me, choking on the weight of my fears. "Safety, we have to ensure everyone is okay." "What if?" Before I could finish, Rex interrupted, stepping close enough that I could see the intensity in his eyes. "Listen, I can have my people sweep the area in minutes. If someone's out there, they need to be caught." Victor's jaw clenched as he weighed the severity of the situation against Rex's offer like a battle in his mind. "We won't let anyone else get hurt." "But I don't trust you, and trust won't matter if someone is targeting those we care about," Rex shot back, urgency coloring his tone. "But time is running out. I can help, or you can waste precious moments, your choice." The gurney with Jenna's blanketed form still occupied my thoughts, the reality of our community's vulnerability clawing at me from the inside. But was exchanging one form of danger for another worth the risk? A single question gripped my heart, an echo reverberating in the empty spaces of my mind. Was I willing to gamble trust on someone like Rex for the sake of hope? As uncertainty swirled in every direction, I heard a faint buzz breaking through the last echoes of chaos, like warnings echoing from the shadows. Victor's grip on my hand tightened, and everything slowed to a heartbeat's pulse as I raised my gaze, locking eyes with Rex. Just then, another voice cut through the rain-soaked night, dislodging the weight of the moment with a chilling announcement. "We have to evacuate the area. There's a threat we can't ignore. Due to reported gunfire nearby." My heart raced, flames of fear igniting in my chest. Victor's face paled, the urgency unbearable, as Rex's expression contorted into something unexpectedly genuine. With panic flooding my senses, I took a step back, torn in every direction, grasping for the strength to refuse the overwhelming tide of choices before me. And then, everything shattered. "Victor!" I screamed, panic climbing higher as the crowd erupted into chaos. Bodies began moving, people spilling in every direction, and my breath caught as Rex lunged forward, grabbing my wrist. "We need to move. Now." He pulled me with him into the storm of uncertainty, and with every frantic heartbeat, I realized we were racing headfirst into deeper Shadowsa reality I could never have prepared for. The world spun in a dizzying blur of confusion and fear as Rex yanked me through the throng of panicked bodies. The rain drummed a frenzied rhythm against the pavement, echoing the chaotic beating of my heart. I could hardly process what was happening, my mind scrambling to catch up with the mounting dread. "Victor!" I screamed again, desperate not to lose sight of him in the madness. The crowd surged like a living tide, each wave pulling at me, threatening to swallow me whole. I caught a fleeting glimpse of Victor's head, his determined features etched with worry as he fought against the flow. "Stay close!" Rex shouted over my shoulder. His voice was urgent but surprisingly steady, as if he were accustomed to navigating through turmoil. "I'll keep you safe," but safety with Rex felt like an oxymoron, and my instinct screamed against trusting him. Just a day ago, he had been the embodiment of everything I loathed, the self-serving manipulator hell-bent on exploiting our community's struggles. Now, thrust together in a moment of imminent danger, I could hardly differentiate between predator and protector. I twisted my wrist, attempting to free myself from his grip. "Let go of me. I don't trust you, none of this is real. Trust will get you killed." Rex snapped back, his eyes locking onto mine with surprising intensity. There was a flicker of something more profound than irritation, a glimpse into a tortured soul that made my own doubt seem insignificant. "We need to get to the old community center. That's where everyone will go. Why would you even care?" I challenged, still fighting against his hold. But deep down, fear waged war with the inexplicable curiosity I felt toward him. "You've caused enough chaos already," he turned sharply, blocking my path as the chaos continued to swirl around us. "Because despite everything, some people still matter. Your mother mattered." His voice softened, and for a brief moment, a sense of vulnerability passed between us, a fragile thread spun from shared grief. "Don't," I began, but the words stuck to my throat like ash. The reality of our situation loomed larger than my anger. My chest tightened at the mention of my mother. Memories of her laughter, her strength, flooded my mind, mixing with the chaos surrounding us. "Listen, we don't have time for this," Rex interrupted, urgency creeping back into his tone. "There are resources we can leverage. People can help stabilize the situation. But right now, we need to regroup. We can't let fear dictate our choices." With a deep breath, I wavered, caught between the raw emotion of my memories and the bitter taste of apprehension. Trust was a fragile seed, but desperation planted it in the soil of possibility. Before I could respond, a loud, piercing shot rang out, mingling with the cacophony of screams and the pounding rain. The crowd surged again, like a stampede of wild animals. I felt Rex's grip tighten around my wrist as he shouted, "Stay with me." Around us, people fell, some stumbling over others. I could barely keep my footing, my pulse pounding in response to the chaotic urgency. This was not just chaos, it was a crisis unfolding, its tendrils creeping through the darkness as uncertainty threatened to swallow us whole. As the realization hit me, the enormity of what was happening began to crystallize. I had to keep moving. I couldn't break down now, my mother's legacy depended on this community's fight for survival. With a sudden jolt of clarity, I gave in, allowing Rex to lead me through the tumult. We turned a corner, where the dimly lit doorway of the empty community center loomed against the stormy backdrop. Relief washed over me, and the warmth of hope flickered like a candle against the night's chill. We burst inside, drawing ragged breaths as the chaos outside faded to a dull roar. The dim interior was a refuge of palpable tension, but I felt the stirrings of something greater than fear, a quiet resilience that flickered like a horizon just before dawn. Is everyone here?" I gasped, looking around at the people huddled together, eyes wide with confusion. "No, and that's why we need to act," Rex replied, moving quickly to scan the gathering. Caution shadowed his face as he stepped closer to a group of people frantically sharing their stories of the night's terror. Just then, Victor finally pushed through the door, a fierce determination etched on his features. "Everyone, we need to regroup and prepare for what comes next. We can't let panic rule over us." I felt the tension in the room shift as Victor's voice anchored us in shared purpose. Relief mixed with the air, however, as I caught a whisper of doubt piercing my thoughts. Rex's motivation still lingered unspoken, forming a tumult beneath the surface of my mind. Victor turned to me, concern etched deep in his brow. "Are you okay?" I'm okay," I stammered, still trying to find solid ground. But then, suddenly, a shout erupted from the back. "Look!" A woman pointed toward the window, and my heart lurched as I turned to see them, figures cloaked in darkness, moving swiftly through the rain outside. Panic gripped me like a vice. "What are they doing?" Rex stepped forward, positioning himself protectively beside me. "I can't believe they would come back so soon." The tension escalated, eyes darted nervously toward the back entrance as the sounds of shouting punctuated the night. What do they want? Victor's voice grew more frantic, the urgency rising as he scanned the space for solutions. I took a steadying breath, steadied by the resolve building in my core. We need to prepare. They're coming for the community center. They think they can take it away from us, from my mother. As apprehension hardened into determination, a wave of unfamiliar strength surged through me. No, I declared, my voice steadying. We won't let that happen. Just as I felt empowered to face this emerging threat, Rex reached for his phone, his fingers moving swiftly across the screen. What are you doing? I demanded, feeling the disquiet rising again in my chest. That I am calling in reinforcements, backups who can turn this tide. If they think they can intimidate us, they have no idea the fight well put up. But as I watched him, a sudden shadow of doubt tensed in my gut. What if he was merely orchestrating another twisted game? The question loomed quietly in the air: who was really on our side? And then came the shocking revelation that would change everything. Rex looked back up at me, and the gravity in his eyes stole my breath. I know who they are. They're the ones who caused the destruction at the center before. They're connected to my business dealings. Stunned silence fell across the room as the magnitude of his words crashed down like waves against the shore. Rex, what are you saying? You knew. He stepped back, as if the weight of this new burden pushed him away, and I felt the shadows creep in again, threatening to swallow every bit of hope we had struggled to cling to. As silence enveloped the room, the stillness felt almost tortured. I could see every eye turning toward Rex, their expressions a medley of betrayal, fear, and confusion. My chest tightened as the weight of the truth sank in. He hadn't just been an opportunist exploiting our desperation, held ties to our tormentors. Was he one of them, masquerading as a reluctant ally? Why would you help us if you knew they would come? I found my voice, though it trembled like a leaf in the wind. Is this all just part of your game? Rex looked pained, anguish etched into his features. I didn't know they were coming back so soon. He exclaimed, desperation pooling in his voice. It's complicated. Me father's dealings. I was trying to break free, to protect what, Rex? What were you protecting? I pressed, feeling the surge of anger clashing with the fragments of relief I'd felt just moments before. Did you think we'd just sit back and accept your help, knowing you're tied to those who want to see us gone? Victor stepped forward, his presence strong, breathing a calm into the storm that raged between us. We don't have time to argue, he said, his voice clear and resounding. We need a plan, and we need trust. We can't afford to fracture now. That I shifted, torn between my instinct to defend my community and my uncertainty about Rex. Every instinct warned me to turn my back on him, yet there was something about the intensity of his gaze, a flicker of remorse that intrigued me. But could I trust that flicker? We need to fortify the building, Victor continued. We have to barricade the entrances. Rex, can you help with that? You know the vulnerabilities. Rex nodded, but his expression remained strained. The visceral tension between us was thick, almost suffocating. I pulled in a deep breath, willing myself to push past the turmoil. We needed each other now more than ever, and so, as chaos loomed just beyond the door, we transitioned from panic to action, gathering whatever we could find: chairs, tables, anything that could serve as a barrier. A sense of purpose weaved itself through the room as we worked together, both a community and a band of misfits thrust into survival mode. Hands moved feverishly, and with every barricade raised, an unfamiliar bond began to form, a shared resilience igniting an ember of hope against the encroaching darkness. Once our makeshift fortifications were in place, we stood panting, adrenaline swelling in the air like electricity. It was surreal, this moment where sweat and fear mingled, energizing our resolve to stand firm. Peeking through the rain-smeared windows, I caught glimpses of shadowy figures milling in the downpour, their intentions maleficent, and it chipped away at my resolve. Do you think they'll come in? A man I barely recognized asked, his voice tremulous. Well, need to be ready for anything, Victor replied, steely determination back in his tone. They might underestimate us and our need to defend our home. And then, against the backdrop of the rain, Rex stepped forward, his expression shifting to something more adamant. "There's no point in being naive here," he began, and I braced myself. "If I know who they are, then I also know their weaknesses. If we can draw them out, we might have the upper hand. Are you saying to confront them?" I challenged, aware of the danger it posed. "I'm saying we need to push back," he replied, embers of defiance flickering in his eyes. "They think they can walk all over us because we're afraid. We have to change that narrative." I exchanged glances with Victor, the same questions reflected in both our minds. Could Rex be trusted? Did we have anything left to lose? Suddenly, the wind howled outside, and I felt my heart hammering in a frantic rhythm against my chest. My mother's voice echoed softly in my head, reminding me of her strength, of how she never backed down in the face of adversity. I realized that, in this moment, it was not just about survival, it was about standing our ground. Drawing upon that inner strength, I faced Rex. "What's the plan?" As he outlined the details of his approach, I could feel apprehension settled along with hope in equal measure. It was the realization that gnawed at my heart the most. Could tomorrow be different? Could a day break that didn't feel steeped in tragedy? But as much as we rallied around the notion of resistance, the figures outside shifted, moving in synchrony, and the oppressive atmosphere thickened once more. The pounding footsteps grew louder and more deliberate. We stood there, hearts racing, holding our collective breath. What if everything we had prepared was about to become irrelevant? Suddenly, the muted thud of a fist against the door sent ripples of dread coursing through my veins, for it was not just a test of courage, this was a reckoning. My heart seized as I whispered, "They're here." Just as the first crack of the door began to yield, a chilling voice cut through the tension that fell like a shroud. "You have something that belongs to me, and I want it back." Shivers raced down my spine, and grief surged forward, tearing at the fragile fabric of my resolve. Unraveling before me, the day spiraled into horror, a conflict I had never expected, pushed forth by enemies lurking in the shadows of my past. I squeezed Victor's hand, anxiety binding us together as we braced ourselves against the storm. "What do we do?" I demanded, the weight of this moment crushing against my resolve. Then, just as the breath of despair began to smother the flickering hope we fought to keep alive, Rex stepped forward. "We fight. Together." Spurred by his words, I straightened my back, the flame igniting once more within me. Whatever came next would define not just my story or REXS, but the fight to honor my mother's legacy, the legacy of our community. And as the door burst open with a deafening crash, everything came down to this moment, one that would deepen the stakes, one that would illuminate the potential for light amidst the dark. The door splintered as the intruders unleashed their wrath, and a wave of cold dread washed over me. My breath quickened, heart racing as I took a step back, instinctively pressing closer to Victor. The room was alive with chaos, the moment stretching into eternity as silhouettes filled the doorway like phantoms, eyes glinting with malice. "Step aside." One of them growled, his voice thick with authority. His appearance was menacing, clad in dark tactical gear, and I could feel the desperation of my breath stifled beneath the weight of his demand. Fear clawed at my throat, a sickly acid that threatened to choke me. Yet, amidst this impending horror, a spark of rebellion ignited within me. I could almost hear my mother's soothing voice countering the terror, telling me that courage was something you carried within. In those seconds, I drew on her strength, holding on to the memories of her relentless optimism. "There's no way we're letting you take anything from us," I shouted, my voice surprisingly steady, echoing around the room. I barely recognized the defiance that propelled me forward, but it pushed me past the panic lurking at the edges of my mind. Rex stood rigid beside me, his expression a mixture of resolve and fear. "This isn't your place. You don't belong here." His declaration was an anchor in the storm, and I could see that his uncertainty about our alliance was melting under the urgency of the moment. But the intruders didn't flinch. If anything, they seemed to drink in our rebellion, relishing the sense of control they wielded. The leader leaned further inside the doorway, a smirk curling his lips. "You really don't get it, do you? This is bigger than you, bigger than all of us." His words dripped with a venomous glee that chilled my bones. Yet, a voice broke through the tension, ringing out from deep in the back of the room, a woman, her face streaked with dirt and fear. We won't allow you to bulldoze our lives. Her bravery sparked a chain reaction, murmurs of agreement weaved through the crowd. These were people I had shared sleepless nights, whispered fears, and dreams of a brighter future with. Their resolve formed a protective barrier around me, a tight-knit shield brimming with rage against the oppressors. Victor stepped forward, tall and unwavering, his presence radiating strength. "If this is a fight you're looking for, then you've come to the right place," he declared, flipping the narrative that had once left us fearful and exposed. Suddenly, the world outside transformed. No longer were we mere victims, we were defenders. With that belief came a surge of adrenaline. I could feel the collective determination swelling, bolstering our once fragile spirits. "We will fight for our home." I echoed, the words bursting forth like a war cry. Yet, just behind that fervor, a flicker of dread lingered. What if we weren't ready? Could we stand our ground against these foes who reveled in fear? The leading man's smile morphed into something darker. "How quaint," he mocked. "But trust me, this will only end one way." He gestured towards his men, and with a sudden burst of movement, they surged forward. "Take cover!" Someone shouted, and in a split second, chaos erupted anew. My heart raced, and I moved instinctively, sidestepping the nearest figure as everything descended into a haze of shouts and scuffles. I ducked low, but sensing their shadows advancing, I looked for Victor, my lifeline in the maelstrom. He was wrestling with two more of them, a fierce determination etched onto his features, but my gaze darted toward Rex, who had sprinted toward the Riara, seemingly futile attempt to call back the frightened members of our community. "Rex!" I bellowed, fear coating my every syllable. "Where are you going? I have a plan." He shouted back, urgency raging in his eyes. "Stay together." In the midst of this upheaval, the whispers of his earlier promisito fight together instilled hope within me. I barely had time to ponder the implications of his intentions before the chaos surged like a tide. Adrenaline flooded my veins, and I grabbed hold of a nearby chair. Wielding it like a weapon as I charged forward, desperation fueling every move. The reality struck Muhat Rex had exposed. Perhaps those who wanted to claim our lives didn't realize we weren't merely cowering victims. We were determined to rise. Just as another blow landed, I spotted a figure looming at the edge of the chaos. It was the woman from earlier, standing tall, her eyes blazing with defiance. She military trained. She hadn't just pulled a knife from her pocket but had managed to fend off two attackers, her determination palpable as she beckoned to me, her stance inviting solidarity. Fighting alongside her filled me with renewed vigor. "Let's take back what's ours," I shouted, and together we surged against the tide of our aggressors, a unified front rising as one. But amidst our small triumph, a bang echoed from outside, grounding me in a stark reality. A shiny black car had come to a halt near the Entrancia site that sent a chill crawling up my spine. A man in a tailored suit emerged, and I recognized him instantaneously. It was the millionaire who'd offered us hope. As I took in his step towards the chaos, I felt a million questions surging against the walls of my mind. Had he come to offer assistance, or did he have his own agenda, something buried under promises? The doubts flooded me, just as quickly as my heart raced with new fear. Time froze as he locked his eyes on mine, and those piercing features contorted into a sinister smile. In that moment, I knew nothing would be the same. His presence wasn't merely a shift in power, it was a harbinger of deeper secrets I'd yet to uncover, each one more dangerous than the last. As realization washed over me, weaving through the chaos, a new wave of uncertainty crested. Roll back the moment, could we truly fight back, or had we walked unwittingly into a game far more perilous than we comprehended? One thing was clear, this fight had only just begun. The room was filled with sounds of struggle and chaos, yet in a strange way, it reminded me of the thunderous summer storms that would roll through our town, angry and chaotic, yet eventually clearing to a bright and hopeful sky. I clung to that imagery as I fought alongside the fierce woman, a sense of camaraderie blossoming as we swung the weapons of our defiance. "Keep pushing. We have to hold them," she cried, her face a mask of fierce determination. I had no idea what her name was, but in that moment, she felt like familia sister-in-arms, fighting for everything we held dear, but I couldn't shake the weight of the millionaire's presence. His piercing gaze searched the fray, calculating and cold, and I was acutely aware of the dangerous game he was playing. What was he doing here? Was he just a chance on the horizon or an omen of our fears realized, including the possibility of losing everything we'd just begun to reclaim? Adeline. The voice pierced through the clamor, and I spun around to see Victor struggling against two men, sweat and blood glistening on his brow. My heart lurched. I had to help him. I broke away from the fierce woman, desperation fueling my actions as I advanced toward Victor, swinging the makeshift weapon above my head like a battle standard. With every swing, every shout, I felt the electricity in the air, the connection we had forged with one another, with our community. Yet, in the back of my mind, the nagging question remained, could hope truly come from a man like the one outside? Adeline. We can't let them divide us. Victor's voice rang loud, pushing me forward. I dodged one of the attackers, landing a hard swing on his arm, and he stumbled sideways, the surprise on his face almost ethereal amidst the battle's frenzy. We won't let them take anything away from us. I shouted back, forging a bond in the face of fear, our purpose crystallizing even as shadows loomed. Rex was gone, but the memory of his resolved face dwindled in my mind. I needed him. I needed us all. Where had he run off to? Had he abandoned us in the heat of battle? But just as that frustration began to rack my heart, I caught sight of Hema's figure darting in and out of the fray, face taut with focus. That he made eye contact, and I could see a plan igniting in his mind. He beckoned me toward him, and instinctively, I shouldered through the commotion, making my way over. The strikes and grunts of the battles around us felt like shadows, mere echoes of a world outside our own. There's a way out through the kitchen, he urged, eyes brightening with a mixture of hope and fear. We can flank them if we hurry. Follow me. An instinct clung to my insides. Could we really trust him, or was it another reckless gamble in the crescendo of our fight? But there was no time to ponder. Trust had become a currency we had to trade, and in this moment, I decided I would follow him. I'll cover you. The fierce woman shouted as I made a split-second decision to grab Victor's arm. Come on, we surged forward, weaving through the remnants of chaos, hope and desperation colliding with every step, but overhead, the shouts from the shadows were growing louder, an army ready to drown us in their numbers. And there, looming beyond the din, was the millionaire, a marionette master, waiting for his time to pull the strings. Just as we reached the kitchen door, another loud crash resonated behind us, and the smell of smoke began to fill the air. A fresh wave of terror propelled us towards an uncertain future. But as Rex opened the door, the hallway's yellow light promised a flicker of safety, graphics of possible lives ahead beyond this nightmare. Go! Rex urged again, his voice carrying through the din. I pushed myself through, instinctively clutching Victor's arm tighter as we stumbled into the kitchen. The scent of oil and metal scratched the back of my throat, but within that moment, I felt a flicker of belonging. I was part of something much larger, something that reached beyond our fragmented lives. Quick, there's a door to the back alley. Rex pointed, his face filled with a manic energy. Before I could respond, an anguished scream pierced the air, slicing through the chaos and my heart. We spun around, and in that instant, I saw the fierce woman fall to the ground, caught off guard by a sudden assailant. Her body crumpled in a tumult of dread and heartbreak, the defiance that had come alive just moments before extinguished in an instant. No! I screamed, feeling the world spiral. The sound of my own voice cracked under the weight of reality. Despair rushed over me like a tide, threatening to drown every flicker of hope. Had we just lost our solidarity in one fatal breath? I turned, desperately seeking help, but panic threatened to wrap around me like a suffocating blanket. The shadows were approaching, the dust of despair settling over our fragile spirit. And yet, in that moment of dire desperation, the millionaire's voice floated into the air, smooth and persuasive. You see, this is why I came. To offer you a way out of the darkness. That I turned instinctively to face him, caught between rage and disbelief. What more could he offer? An escape from our fight, a promise that whispered false hope, perhaps. His eyes gleamed with mischief and something darker, and for a moment, I was trapped in that gaze, the weight of our situation crashing over me. The warm glimmer of a dream faded as the specter of uncertainty loomed larger than ever, casting a new shadow over our fight. Could hope truly come from a man like him? The answer lodged like a stone in my throat. The path swung dangerously to the left, and all I could do was wonder where it would lead. The desperation pulsed through my veins as I took in the scene before me, chaos, confusion, and the heartbreaking silhouette of the woman who had fought alongside me just moments ago. No! I cried out, launching forward in disbelief. I had come to depend on her presence, her fierce spirit a lifeline woven into the fabric of our shared fight. Rx's voice rang out, urging us to keep moving, but every step felt weighted by the loss of someone who had embodied our community's resolve. My heart shattered as I stumbled back, shaking with anger and dread. We have to go back. We can't leave her. But deep down, I sensed the urgency, the need to escape this nightmare before it dragged us down with it. Victor, steady beside me, grasped my shoulder. We can't help her now. We need to stay alive and regroup. This isn't over. His eyes met mine, filled with a blend of grief and determination. I wanted to scream, to lash out against the injustice that felt deceptively familiar now, as if the universe was toying with our pain one final time. Suddenly, the voice of the millionaire slithered into my thoughts again, breaking through the anguish. You can't fight this battle alone, he said, stepping closer, his demeanor shifting to something almost magnetic. I can help. Together, we can protect what's ours. I felt the weight of his gaze on me, the twinkle of his intentions hidden behind a mask of charm. But were they noble, or merely selfish? Rx's tension coiled in the air around us, a predator ready to pounce. We're not trusting you, he snapped, stepping protectively in front of me, his body a wall against this new wave of darkness. Not now, not ever, but in that moment, that acute separation, the divide between us and the suffocating dread seemed insurmountable. I could feel the shadows creeping in closer, the feeling of imminent doom clawing at my very essence. If there was any chance of saving my mother's legacy, I couldn't allow my emotions to cloud my judgment any longer. Why should we trust you? I found my voice, shaking as I hung between hope and despair. Why would someone like you care at all? His eyes narrowed, an undercurrent of intensity surging through him. Because I've been in darkness before. And I know how hard it is to rise again. If this community means something to you, it means something to me. I hesitated, battling conflicting thoughts. Could the man before me truly have a change of heart, or was this a mere facade? But within the clamor of emotions, an undeniable spark ignited. My mother, the woman who had taught me the essence of community, had once held the hands of those in need, weaving a tapestry of support that connected us all. Perhaps, in this hour of need, compassion could wrap around us all again, however unexpected its source. Enough. I shouted, my voice breaking through the darkness. I'll take your help. But this isn't just about survival. It's about standing against what we've lost. Victor's surprised gaze swung toward me, the shift palpable. Adeline, are you sure? I felt the weighty atmosphere surrounding us, demanding immediacy. My heart thudded wildly, fueled by the raw insistence to rise above the pain. Yes, if there's any chance to save what my mother built, I have to try. I have to believe there's light in all of this. Just like that, the tension shifted, threads of connection began to weave between us and the unknown we faced, threads that belonged not just to me but to those who grieved alongside us. I took a deep breath, meeting Rx's challenging gaze. But this is our fight too. Nothing less. The millionaire nodded slowly but firmly, a sense of purpose dawning. Then let's divide and conquer. You'll have to trust me slightly more than you do, Rex, he stated, masterfully set against the shadows, and take the positions that matter most. We found ourselves nodding, an unspeakable bond burgeoning between us, and I propelled forward, anchored by our collective grief and hope, trusting that we could harness the power of both those we had lost and the forces standing with us. As I launched into motion, we coordinated our next steps, readying ourselves to reclaim every single moment and ounce of strength. The kitchen door creaked open, split as beams of light spilled into the distance, carrying a promise of possibility. On the count of 3, I pushed, adrenaline coursing through my veins. We fight back together. The room held its breath, and as I counted down, the world outside blurred into a cacophony of battle cries and sudden fear. My heart thundered, echoes of my mother's laughter surfacing and intertwining with the beat of my solo legacy woven through the spirit of the community we had become. 1, 2, 3, charging forward, we pushed through the chaos with fierce intensity, hearts clamoring by each other's side. The fight for our home had transformed into a movement larger than any of us alone, and as I emerged into the dim light outside, that very truth washed over me. Our resolve sparkled brighter than daybreak. No matter how convoluted the path, no matter the darkness lingering behind us, the light was here. We would fight for her, for us, for all the lives that had been irrevocably intertwined, and in that moment, I felt her warmth embrace and lift me, fierce and unyielding, together. For the community. For love, I shouted, the words ringing as an anthem through the mayhem. And as they echoed back, I felt an unshakable bond for the struggle to come, a life tangled in shadows illuminated by love's persistent radiance. Every heartbeat, every breath, every shared moment would shape the fight ahead. United, we surged forward into the storm, our spirits undaunted, our desires burning bright, a testimony to the power of resilience wrapped in the endless embrace of hope. And as the tides rolled in behind us, I finally felt it, the certainty that there lies not just darkness in memories but a tapestry woven with light, a promise of tomorrow that would bring new beginnings, unbreakable and eternal. In that moment, I understood we were more than survivors, we were phoenixes rising from the ashes, determined to carve our mark in the world, a testament that in unity, hope never fades. It ignites and flourishes with every passing breath, weaving our stories into a rich tapestry that transcends beyond the pain. That day, we fought not only for our community's fate but for the legacy of love and resilience that pulsed with every beat of our hearts, intertwining like roots beneath the soil. And as we stood together, faces aglow with determination poised for the journey ahead, I realized our story was far from over. It was only just beginning, and in the end, it was as if my mother whispered through the winds, her voice dancing through the echoes of the sky, "It's not just about the battle we face, it's about the love that teaches us how to rise."